All right, welcome to another episode of the Crypto Spenther podcast. So, starting off with the first piece of news, we have Nomura analysts think that Bitcoin is making Japanese people spend more. So, in the last episode, I mentioned how Bitcoin and crypto is really boosting Japan's GDP. And now there's another speculation that it also could be encouraging people to spend more money. Why? Because there's this wealth effect that people feel like they have more money because they see their crypto portfolio shoot up, so they mentally think that they are significantly richer than they could actually be, and they end up spending more of their disposable income on consuming things. So this might make crypto more attractive to countries to adopt, and it will be pretty interesting to see what happens in countries like Belarus, which are really open arms with crypto and trying to get a lot of projects into their country. So should be interesting in the next couple of years to see what actually comes of actual studies of how crypto has affected GDP or consumer spending. But for now, we only have these rough speculations. Next up, Merrill Lynch bans clients from Bitcoin investment trust. So this might come back and bite them, because 2018 is already shaping up to be a year where a lot of institutional organizations really embrace crypto. Merrill Lynch basically stated that the brokerage clients with historic positions in the Bitcoin investment trust fund will be able to maintain them, but clients with fee-based advisory accounts have to sell all their holdings. So it's kind of bad for them, but I think this also kind of provides a lesson of it's better to hold the actual Bitcoin than this third-party assisted way of being in Bitcoin. Next up, a very important announcement. Sneaky crypto malware miners are targeting ad networks. So be aware of this, because it looks like these JavaScript miners are becoming way more widespread, and people are able to sneak these JavaScript miners into ad networks and spread them way farther than they'd ever be able to spread on their own. So this really poses serious threats to websites that depend on ad revenue, and these ad networks will just have to be on their toes about this, about hackers or whatever managing to inject this JavaScript codes into their network. So this might make a big case for websites to switch off of this kind of advertising model. Instead of banner ads and all that, switching to affiliate-oriented ads, go to the subscription model, which is actually a model that's really coming back in the media. You see a lot more people kind of reverting to a subscription-based model, just because it also cuts down on media companies having to utilize clickbait headlines, because they already have a base that constantly pays for good content. But changing to affiliate model or subscription model, or finally switching to a more donation based, which is probably the worst one. This also is going to give BAT a good claim that their token can be useful for these sites right now, because BAT allows people to donate. Well, BAT allows people to put their coin and this little wallet on Brave, and then it's distributed to content creators on YouTube or websites, and they get paid out in back for how much time you spend enjoying the content. So for crypto-oriented websites, that might encourage them to turn off banner ads and all that and switch to all these other models and utilize BAT as a verified publisher. But for you personally, listeners out there, to be completely unaffected by this minor malware, this is what you need to do. So there's an extension for, I think, all the major browsers called uBlock Origin, and I've been using that for a long time. It blocks basically everything if you're on normal websites, and it blocks most of these other ads on lesser known websites. It really depends, because the more used an ad network is, the higher chance of it being blocked. If it's like these random crypto-based ad networks, then you might have to do some extra steps to get some of those, or if it's those weird inline website ads. But you'll have to do some extra steps for all that. But with uBlock Origin, most ads are just gone, and you don't even have to worry about this whole JavaScript situation with ads injecting malicious code into your browser or whatever. For your mobile option, if adding an extension to your mobile browsing is too difficult for you, you can just switch over to Brave, and the Brave browser is pretty good at keeping you away from ads, malicious ads. And don't forget that sometimes you will actually just have to disable JavaScript in its entirety, because the JavaScript can be on the website itself and still kind of shoot off. So do be aware that you're not 100% protected, because the danger might not be the ads anymore, but the website itself. So be careful with what websites you go onto, what links you click, because your coins are definitely could be in danger if you are unlucky enough to land on a compromised website. So next up, over 800,000 people have signed up to mine this Venezuelan Petro crypto that they're rolling out. So there's actually a possibility that Venezuela could be a major mining player, because they've been assembling miners and sometimes seizing mining hardware from people, because now to mine in Venezuela you have to be nationally registered and approved. So it will be interesting to see how a country that's actually mobilizes itself to mine crypto, how like that turns out. But something to also keep in mind is how will the rest of the world react to this, because if Venezuela puts all these crypto, like this Petro, on like probably won't be able to get on normal exchange. Well, probably won't be able to get on U.S. exchanges, but if this Petro got on like the Asian exchanges or decentralized exchanges, they've basically just circumvented all of their little sanctions, and through cryptocurrency mining and their own crypto. So then it comes to the fact that can you be labeled a criminal or something if you are speculating on this coin of a sanctioned country? So I think that might be a very good question in the future, and how the governments react, because this could definitely be something that takes power out of major powers, like the U.S. in particular. If any sanctioned country can just go to crypto and circumvent a lot of the financial burdens. Obviously, they still have resource issues, like physical resources that you can't get through, but financially, they could stable it out with and utilize whatever partners they have now. Next up is Ripple. So, Ripple, the influence of exchanges. People have been really up in arms about Ripple. In the Western world, everyone thought, oh, Coinbase is going to add Ripple soon. Oh, there's this insider who said Coinbase is going to add Ripple. This is proof. Coinbase is definitely going to add Ripple. But turns out, Coinbase publicly states that they are not adding Ripple anytime soon, if ever. So, Coinbase basically said they're not considering to add any coin currently. And when people reviewed the framework that Coinbase put out, that Ripple kind of fit most of the framework. A lot of other people think an ERC20 coin will be one of the next coins that Coinbase adds. Which one, who knows? But that's what a lot of people are thinking now. But the key here is Coinbase's kind of like decline of adding Ripple only caused this 20% decrease while they've seen crazy gains. And the reason they've seen crazy gains is because Asia, Korea in particular, but Japan to a lesser extent too. So really, Westerners need to start looking east for explanations on why the market is going crazy. This is actually one of the reasons I am really unsure how the market is going to be this month. Because normally it'd be like, oh, Bitcoin's going to rally soon, all these alts are going to bleed hard. But with the craziness in Korea, I don't know how true would that keep being soon, because Korea really props up a lot of altcoin trading, and they've probably been the main driver of this massive boom in the last month. So personally for me, it's no telling what's going to happen. We've seen crazy growth, but obviously it will come to correct. But almost at this point, I feel like it's going to correct to a lesser extent than it should be, just because how crazy the Asian market is, and specifically Korea is about it right now. It's unknown territory because all this growth and exposure, you can't rely on how the market was when it was worth like 100 million, because we've far surpassed that. Next up, Ripple co-founder becomes one of the world's richest people. There's also a lot of controversy off of this because the founder controls like 37% of the coin, but that's really a relevant question on his controls too much or whatever. Who cares about that? The questions people should really be asking is, what actual use does Ripple have right now? Like, not the technology of Ripple, but the actual coin of Ripple. And right now that question is not much but speculation, because if you look into it, most of Ripple's enterprise success is another product that they have, but isn't directly tied to the coin itself. So I think people need to be aware that even Ripple is still in the pure speculation phase, and don't think that might backfire in the future. But right now, the entire market is speculation, so real use doesn't matter currently, but eventually it'll come to eliminate the ones that aren't actually applicable, because coins definitely die off. It might not seem that coins die, but coins definitely die off. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. Next up, Coinbase to customers. Don't forget to pay taxes on Bitcoin gains. So Coinbase has really started to push for users to pay more, to pay their taxes. And why? Well, because the IRS tried to seize user data. It was in the last 3-4 months ago, I think they tried to do that. So the thing there is, because of this, they're really trying to push people to actually file their taxes. And that's important to do, because if they really want to track your Bitcoin transactions, Ether transactions, whatever, they can do it. So pay those taxes, but aggressive tax collection will force people to start using other methods to acquire crypto that doesn't include their bank or centralized exchanges. So governments really need to kind of do a reality check before they try to do this super aggressive tax collection of crypto capital gains. And no doubt that Coinbase would probably be one of the first to turn all your data over. So be careful with centralized exchanges and play legal or play smart, because you're going to be in trouble if you don't do one of those two. Officials' complaints that South Korea trading restrictions are unconstitutional. So back to Korea, there's been a official complaint filed by some lawyer about how the government regulation is devaluing virtual currencies by making trading very difficult. And this is an infringement on people's property rights by the government's unlawful measures, which is something interesting considering how the market's been driven by Korea lately. But I've been keeping up with a lot of the changes that are undergoing in Korea, and their government is really trying to change things to make it more stricter, and they are also looking at heavy-handed taxes. Not a lot of this has been implemented yet, but it could really endanger the enthusiasm of the Korean market with time. Power back into the people's hands. Zuckerberg announces Facebook's crypto focus. So Zuckerberg is turning his eye to crypto this year. Will this lead to Facebook adopting one or creating their own? Who knows? But what we do know is this validates crypto since it's gained Zuckerberg's interest, and we could potentially see a big player enter crypto with time. The funniest part about this is he mentioned the power or the benefits of decentralization versus centralization in the post, and Facebook is far from putting power into the people's hands. Next up, Bank of England has no plans to launch a cryptocurrency. So I covered this last time, I think, too, or time before that, but I think it was last time, that the Bank of England was considering a possibility of creating its own cryptocurrency. However, it was dropped because mass adoption would put commercial banks in peril. So these reasons were because if they made their own cryptocurrency, it might entice people to switch over to their digital platform only, and this mass adoption to their digital platform would mean there wouldn't be enough cash for the commercial banks to lend, and it would also limit their ability to control the financial stability. because they couldn't just raise and lower interest rates. Like, so it would have made a massive change to the banking industry, but not happening because it actually cripples their power too much for them. So at least we know crypto has the ability to do what it was intended to do. So Texas sends a cease and desist order to Bitconnect, and if you've been following Bitconnect it's almost universally acclaimed as a actual Ponzi scheme because the returns are impossible to get. So the main claim here is Bitconnect is not a registered security and cannot operate in Texas. And that's basically what the whole document is about. Them not being a registered security, and they're not allowed to operate or sell their Bitconnect coin because that's basically equivalent to a share. The major thing here is a lot of people are saying this is irrelevant and it doesn't matter, and I will agree. It really won't affect Bitconnect itself because it is in England. But there's two key takeaways to take from this case is, one, you have more than just the normal SEC to look out for. Every state has their own, and any state could also prompt a company to have this legal trouble or official cease and desist, and it could cascade to all the other states. Who knows? But two is, the little gem in the cease and desist order is that these affiliates of Bitconnect are also technically selling an security, and they could get in trouble for doing so. So all those people shilling Bitconnect on YouTube can potentially get in trouble if they're American citizens. So keep that in mind next time you think you want to shill a coin like this, because it could definitely have consequences. See, I honestly think that these are the people who will see the real legal actions against them rather than Bitconnect themselves. So be careful with all this, because typically with these memos is if you continue to do something after the memo was published, that's how you really get like blown out by the government. If you were doing it beforehand, you can have that little plausible deniability and an easier case in your favor, but afterwards it's like all the facts were laid out in front of you, yet you still continue to do this even if you know you weren't allowed to. So just be aware of that, and if you are involved in Bitconnect and you're a U.S. citizen, I'd highly advise you to just stop. Stop the whole referring. Just drop the entire system. Stop doing it, because it's definitely a potential to get you in a lot of trouble. Next up, Overstock gets $100 million from Soros Fund for blockchain and more. So Quantum Fund is managed by George Soros and has bought $100 million in shares for Overstock. Overstock has been one of the earliest and most ardent supporter of cryptocurrencies from a big institutional kind of point of view in a way. They're a big company that really were one of the first to be on the crypto train before it was like super, super big. Their T0 ICO will probably be also one of the first that's green-lighted by the SEC, which that in itself is kind of an accomplishment. So Overstock's really trying to put itself into a position where it's fully embracing blockchain, and it merges its normal retail side with this newer blockchain initiatives that they're doing, and kind of finally merge those two systems into one. So it will be interesting to see how Overstock fares in the future because of how much they're like committing to the blockchain technology. Next up is another big like PSA to everyone listening. So as you know, there's been big vulnerabilities found. So Meltdown and Spectre, flaws in the processors of computers, phones, everything basically. If you have Intel, must basically compromise. I think there's only two versions of Intel that weren't as affected or not affected, and AMD is affected to a minor degree, but it's not as in much trouble as Intel. And then all those processors in like phones and all that stuff, I think they're called ARM processors, those are also exposed to the vulnerability. So just might as well treat it as everything. So what does this mean for you? Well, because how vulnerable your hardware can be, that means the software side is, your software wallets are also pretty vulnerable. Using these hardware exploits, there is potential for hackers to steal your private key from your software wallet. So this really supports the fact that you should have cold storage wallets, something that's not connected to the internet, and maybe even look toward hardware wallets, but any cold storage solution would work. So please take a look at that. Even if you are updating your OS and taking that performance hit, you should still look to having cold storage solutions if you have a lot of coins that you cannot afford to lose, because you never know when you can get hacked or accidentally get malicious programs to activate on your computer. So just be aware and be careful. As crypto increases in price, expect more sophisticated ways to steal your coins. So finally, China. Chinese miners are leaving China to avoid this new regulation that might, I think, isn't set in stone, but there's been a lot of pressure on power usage, and that's been the main driver of these Chinese companies leaving. So major miners, Bitmain, BTC Top, and Via BTC are leaving China. And like I said, it's mainly because it's going to be less economically viable to mine in China, because how they're changing their treatment towards miners and the way, and increased power costs, and or reducing the power that miners can utilize. So a lot of these miners, like Bitmain, was moving to Singapore. BTC Top and Via BTC, I think they both had places in Canada, and one of them also had places in the United States and Iceland. So China is really destroying itself, because the exchanges have already fled to Korea and Japan, and now the miners are fleeing to anywhere else where there's cheap electricity. So China will probably go dark on crypto soon, because the last bastion of crypto is leaving China. And that'll be it for today. As always, rate the podcast. That really helps out. Look forward to a lot of content soon. because I'm making this Excel spreadsheet for a friend, and I might end up just publishing it somewhere, but you need to be time sensitive with this because the way I'm making the spreadsheet is via historical data and not APIs because I'm lazy and don't want to figure out how to use them. But the spreadsheet I'm making for my friend is basically a list of coins that I think you wanted rather cheap coins, but what I'm gonna do is have like three sheets with like different objectives. One's gonna be the bread and butter kind of. These are the top coins. You can just throw money in these and there you go. But filtered out with the ones that are just obviously garbage or high risk of just disappearing off the map like Bitconnect. There's gonna be another one that's focused more on ICOs and all that, and holding ICOs that these influencers end up buying into. And the third one's gonna be the altcoin dartboard of this coin's cheap, so you only need one to explode and you're good. So look for that. I'm gonna finish it within the next 2 days and probably publish it on Steemit. So follow me on Steemit or you'll miss it, or follow the website because I'm gonna post it on my own website too. I'll probably even port the Excel sheet to Google Docs just so you guys can mess around with it yourself without having to download anything. So, as I said, rate, review the show, and tune in next time. Tune in Thursday